The colony of Eden Prime was once a beacon of hope, a paradise where humanity could start over. Free from the mistakes of the past, towering megastructures loomed over streets paved with artificial sunlight, biomechanical gardens pulsed with self-repairing nanotech, and the people lived in harmony under the watchful guidance of Zenith Corp. Or so the propaganda claimed. The truth was far darker. Every citizen was fitted with a neural compliance chip at birth, a sophisticated implant woven into the brain, promising to enhance productivity, regulate emotions, and eliminate conflict. It was the ultimate solution to the chaos of free will, a system designed to create the perfect society. And for decades, it worked. Crime was non-existent, disobedience was unheard of, and rebellion was an impossible concept, because anyone who thought of resistance had the thought erased before they could act on it. The system had only one flaw: those who remembered. Some individuals, by chance or genetic anomaly, resisted the neural resets. Their memories, fragmented and incomplete, left them with a gnawing sense of unease, as if they were living inside someone else's dream. They whispered of things that never happened, uprisings that no one recalled, lost families, names erased from history. They were dismissed as mad, ignored as outliers, until one of them, Keir Dane, leader of the Unshackled, found a way to break the cycle. The resistance had been crushed before. Many times, in fact, they had risen, fought, and been forgotten. But this time, Keir had something different. A virus, a rogue AI stolen from Zenith's own labs, capable of corrupting the reset protocols and disabling the chips permanently. The plan was simple: infiltrate Zenith's network, unleash the virus, and set the colony free. But someone had to get close enough to deliver it, and that's where Veyna Korr came in. Veyna was one of Zenith's enforcers, a high-ranking security officer tasked with eliminating dissidents before they could become a real threat. Efficient, ruthless, and unquestioning in her duty, she had crushed dozens of would-be rebellions without hesitation. Her combat instincts were perfect, her loyalty absolute, because the system had ensured it. She never expected Keir Dane to surrender himself. The man was a known terrorist, a ghost the system had failed to wipe out. But when Veyna apprehended him, he didn't resist. Instead, he looked at her like he knew her, like he had seen her before. And before she could report in, he whispered a single phrase that sent a spike of unexplainable fear through her mind. "This isn't the first time we've met." Then, without another word, he hacked her neural chip. And in that moment, everything changed. For the first time in years, Veyna saw the truth. The erased battles, the lost faces, the memories that had been wiped away. She had been fighting for Zenith her whole life, but now she remembered. She had once fought against them. Veyna Korr staggered backward, clutching her head as fragmented memories exploded in her mind. Flashes of battles that no longer existed, names of people who had been erased, her own voice shouting commands to rebels, only to be met with silence. It was all there, buried beneath the layers of forced compliance, hidden behind years of neural resets. And now, for the first time in years, she remembered. The security alarms wailed around her, snapping her back to the present. Keir Dane was still shackled, still bleeding from his capture, but his eyes burned with knowing. He had planned this. He had wanted to be caught, because she was the real target. "This isn't the first time we've met," he said again, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "And it won't be the last. But we don't have much time." Veyna didn't understand how it was possible, how a single override command could undo years of corporate programming, but she knew one thing for certain. Zenith wouldn't let her walk away with this knowledge. The system was already adapting, She felt it, a slow, creeping pressure in the back of her skull. Her neural chip was trying to reassert control. Faint whispers echoed in her mind. This is a malfunction. You are an enforcer. You obey Zenith. The neural suppression was kicking in, attempting to overwrite the virus. Her body froze for a fraction of a second, her breath catching in her throat. But this time, she fought back. With a snarl, she ripped the pulse rifle from its holster and fired at the security cams. Sparks showered from the walls as the room was plunged into darkness. "You're either with us, or you're about to be erased," Keir said, voice calm despite the tension. "If you want to know who you really are, you have to run, now." Veyna hesitated. Every instinct in her screamed that this was wrong, that she should call it in, that she should let the system fix her. But deep down, in the broken fragments of memory that had surfaced, she saw herself fighting for something more than orders. She saw a purpose. So she made her choice. Spinning, she shot the cuffs off Keir's wrists. "Move!" Together, they bolted through the facility, sirens howling in pursuit. Automated sentries dropped from the ceiling, plasma rifles locking on. Veyna reacted on instinct, her reflexes still the perfect weapon Zenith had designed her to be. She fired mid-sprint, precision shots hitting servos, sensors, disabling without killing. They burst into the open streets of Eden Prime, neon lights casting distorted shadows against the towering skyscrapers. Drones swarmed in the sky, scanning for their location. Veyna turned to Keir, her pulse racing. "Where to?" He grinned. "Somewhere they can't erase us." And with that, they vanished into the underbelly of the city. Veyna Korr had spent her entire life hunting rebels. Now, she was one of them. Beneath the pristine megastructures of Eden Prime, far from the automated security patrols and surveillance drones, lay the Unshackled's hidden refuge, a labyrinthine slum of forgotten tunnels, abandoned metro stations, and illegal tech hubs where the resistance thrived in the shadows. As she followed Keir Dane through the underground corridors, remnants of memories continued resurfacing, faces she had known, battles she had fought, people she had betrayed. The weight of it was suffocating. She had been Zenith's weapon, their perfect soldier, and yet these people didn't look at her with hatred. They looked at her with hope. "Zenith's accelerating the reset," Keir announced as he activated a holo display. A towering digital construct of the colony's neural network glowed above them, a web of connections linking every citizen's compliance chip to the core. "They know we've compromised you, which means they know their system isn't as flawless as they thought," he continued, pointing to a blinking red signal near Zenith Tower. "They're preparing a full system wipe. Within 48 hours, every citizen in Eden Prime will be reset to factory settings. No memory of resistance, no free will." Veyna clenched her fists. They weren't just suppressing rebellion, they were erasing an entire history of struggle. "How do we stop it?" she asked. Keir's expression hardened. "The neural core. It's the command center that sends out the reset signals. If we destroy it, the system collapses and everyone in the colony will be free." The plan was simple in theory, but suicidal in execution. Phase 1. Disable the security grid. Take out the city's automated defense systems to clear a path to the tower. Phase 2. Infiltrate Zenith Tower, the most heavily fortified building on Eden Prime. Phase 3. Upload the virus into the neural core, overload the system and sever the compliance chips. The window for success? Less than an hour before Zenith reboots the network. Veyna exhaled slowly, her pulse steadying. She had spent years enforcing Zenith's will. Now, she would tear it down. The operation began that night. In the upper districts, hacked drones turned against their masters, detonating EMP charges that rippled through the security grid. Automated enforcers collapsed mid-patrol, their systems fried. In the lower sectors, the Unshackled launched a full-scale assault, drawing Zenith's forces away from the tower. Gunfights erupted in the neon-lit streets, plasma bolts searing the air. Veyna and Keir moved in through the chaos, weaving through the destruction. As they neared Zenith Tower, her neural chip flickered. The system was trying to pull her back. "You are an enforcer. You obey." She gritted her teeth, overriding the impulse. Not anymore. The doors slid open. Inside, the final battle for Eden Prime began. The doors to Zenith Tower slid open, revealing a long, sterile corridor lined with security turrets and automated guards. Veyna barely had a second to react before the first shots came. Plasma rounds scorched the walls as she and Keir dove for cover. The mission had reached its breaking point. With the security grid down, the tower's defences were operating in full lockdown mode, which meant there was no turning back. "We need to move fast," Keir said, reloading his weapon. "The core is 3 levels up. If we waste time here, we're dead." Veyna's tactical instincts kicked in. Years of training under Zenith had made her one of the most dangerous enforcers in the colony, and now she was turning those skills against them. She darted forward, firing in precise bursts, hitting weak points in the sentry's armour. The machines staggered, sparks bursting from their joints. Keir followed close behind, tossing an EMP grenade that fried the remaining turrets. They sprinted toward the elevator. As the doors slid shut behind them, Veyna felt the pressure in her skull intensify. The system was still trying to reclaim her. It was fighting back, sending pulses through her neural chip, attempting to override her mind. A cold, synthetic voice echoed in her thoughts. "Return to compliance. You are an asset of Zenith Corporation. You will obey." She gritted her teeth. Not this time. The elevator doors opened into the core control chamber, a vast, circular space dominated by the towering neural core, its pulsating blue circuits feeding directly into the colony's mind-link system. And standing in front of it was Ilara Voss. The CEO of Zenith was calm, composed, dressed in a sleek black coat that barely hinted at the ruthless mind behind it. "You're making a mistake," Ilara said, her voice smooth, persuasive. "Eden Prime is not a prison. It is a perfected society. Without control, there will be chaos." Veyna levelled her gun at her. "Without control, there will be choice." Ilara sighed. "And what has choice ever given humanity? War? Destruction. We created order. You, of all people, should understand that." Keir moved toward the core, readying the virus upload. That was when the failsafe activated. The room flooded with Zenith enforcers, heavily armoured shock troopers, weapons raised. A countdown appeared on the core's interface. Neural reset in 3 minutes. Veyna acted first. She lunged, taking down the nearest enforcer, using their weapon against them. The room erupted into chaos. Gunfire rang out as Keir sprinted toward the console, initiating the override sequence. Ilara, seeing her empire crumbling, lunged for the kill switch. Veyna tackled her. They crashed against the console, fighting for control. The countdown ticked down. Keir slammed the final command into the system. The neural core overloaded. The lights flickered. Across the colony, millions of compliance chips deactivated at once. Zenith had fallen. Eden Prime was free. The silence was deafening. For the first time in decades, Eden Prime belonged to its people. Veyna Korr stood in the wreckage of the core control chamber, breathing heavily. Smoke curled from shattered terminals, sparks rained from severed conduits, and the once immaculate floors were smeared with blood and oil. The neural core, the heart of Zenith's control, was now a dark, lifeless husk. The blue circuits that had once pulsed with the thoughts of millions were now cold and dead. And then the screams started. Not of pain, but of awakening. Across the colony, citizens collapsed in the streets, gripping their heads as suppressed memories flooded back. People who had never known rebellion suddenly remembered the countless uprisings that had been erased. Mothers who had forgotten their children saw their faces again. Soldiers who had fought for Zenith realized the blood on their hands. Veyna closed her eyes, swallowing the weight of it all. Freedom had come at a cost. Keir stood beside her, battered and bleeding, but alive. He glanced at the console where Ilara Voss lay motionless, her once imposing figure slumped against the mainframe. She had tried to reach the emergency override, tried to restore control, but Veyna had stopped her. The last thing she had seen was the world she built crumbling before her. "She'll never control anyone again," Keir muttered, nudging her body with his boot. Veyna didn't respond. She wasn't sure how to feel. She had spent years hunting rebels like Keir, convinced she was fighting for order. Now, she had destroyed the very system she once protected. Who did that make her now? The main screens flickered back to life, not with Zenith's sterile corporate broadcasts, but with raw, unfiltered messages from across the colony, people speaking freely. A resistance fighter's voice crackled through the comms. Zenith forces are retreating, some are trying to regroup, but most, they're lost. They don't know what to do without orders. Keir exhaled. It's over. Was it? Veyna looked out over the skyline through the shattered glass. Eden Prime was still standing, but barely. Fires burned in the lower districts. Millions of people had just woken up from a dream that was never theirs. She knew what came next. Without Zenith, there would be chaos, power struggles, revenge. The colony wasn't going to heal overnight. Keir seemed to sense her thoughts. "We'll rebuild," he said. "It won't be easy, but it'll be ours." Veyna nodded, though something inside her was already pulling away. She had done what needed to be done. But she wasn't a leader. She wasn't a hero. She was a weapon that no longer had a master. As the first rays of an artificial sunrise illuminated the broken city, Veyna turned toward the exit. Keir frowned. "Where are you going?" She pulled a stolen enforcer mask over her face. "Somewhere they still need me." Far beyond Eden Prime, in the cold reaches of space, Zenith wasn't the only power that needed to fall. She had a new war to fight.